We're just waiting for Clay to come in. We're going to do a nice little cook chat about food, wine, our lives together. We've been friends for almost 20 years. So I think it'll be a fun night. If you guys have any questions about the food, or even if you have questions about Clay and I, our friendship and what we've done through the years, ask away. This is what we want. Barb, I am making a buttermilk baked chicken with quinoa salad, marinated cherry tomatoes. Very simple recipe. If everybody likes this recipe and you DM me, I can email you the recipe. I did it on the Today Show, actually. So I thought it was a good thing to do with Clay's delicious wine. So, all right. What else we got here? All right, Westfall's in. I'm liking that. Oh, here he is. Go live. And he should be coming in any minute. Hey!
What's going on, bud?
How are you, sir?
I'm doing all right, man.
I see you're keeping the grizzly beard.
I got rid of the grizzly beard, but I can see that, I don't have my wife cutting my hair, keeping my locks nice and tight like yours are. Actually, my kids had a fight to see who was going to get to shave the beard. So actually, my daughter got to shave my beard off.
Oh, nice. Well, I don't know if you saw my Instagram a couple weeks ago, but we actually let my 14-year-old Nicholas shave my 6-year-old's hair. It was interesting. Stephanie did fix it though, so everything was, A-okay on the end. So what do you?
I became somewhat of a hero to my kid because my kids don't believe me, but when I was in college, I used to cut guys on the football team's hair. And so, my kid's hair was getting pretty scraggly. So I got out the old razor and gave him a little bit of a fade that will definitely need to be fixed at some point soon.
It's funny you mentioned the football because people that see the pictures of us together, they say, is he really that big? And I said, no, not at all.
Is there just are you that small? I mean,
Yes, I am. And you are that big. So it's kind of like, the Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito thing.
I wish.
So first off, I want to say how much I miss you guys. I know that we get to see you guys. If it's not once a year, we get to see you every other year and spend time together in California, or if you and Carrie are in New York. Obviously, this situation has kept some friends that don't live in the same states very apart, opposed to, families that live only a block away. It's definitely a crazy time, but as you can see, we're making it work.
Yeah. No, we feel the same way. I mean, we miss you, and our heart goes out to especially everyone in your neck of the woods. New York, New Jersey is kind of ground zero for all of this. And, while we hope that this provides a little bit of diversion and maybe a respite from quarantine, we want you to know that we're thinking about you and we don't take this lightly. And but we've got to go on with our lives, right? And even in quarantine or shelter in place, we still want to enjoy each other's company, and we're just doing it in different ways now. And thank God there's wine, because life would be really miserable without that.
Well, we were talking about earlier is that I had about 6 of your bottles in my fridge a month ago, and now I have 1 left, which is open right now. But listen, this is what it's all about, is right. Like, if I'm home and I'm cooking, I want to drink great wine, and that's what we're drinking right now. Is great wine.
Well, the problem is I think I'm going to be held to the opposite standard, because we went out and bought all the ingredients, because you sent us the recipe ahead of time. So unfortunately, whatever I cook tonight, I'm going to be judged by the example you're setting right now. So I'm pretty sure that's a lose-lose proposition for me.
Well, listen, the recipe I'm doing is very simple. You know, I'm doing a buttermilk baked chicken. And I'm going to show you right here is I took the chicken and I put it in a saute pan, a cold saute pan, and I put the buttermilk in, and then I laid the chicken down with the skin up. And the reason why I do that is because the buttermilk encases the part of the chicken that has no skin. Skin is fat, but then the chicken itself has no fat to keep it moist. So the buttermilk encases it in that dry, hot oven. And that's what keeps the moisture in. So I'm going to put this in the oven for about 15 minutes.
Okay.
And we're going to let that go. I have some quinoa cooked. We're going to do a nice quinoa salad, some cherry tomatoes. While I'm cooking, I think your story of how we met would probably be incredible to hear, knowing that 20 years of friendship started in Paris, France.
Yeah, it's
right?
pretty crazy to think, first of all, that it's been 20 years. That makes me feel very old. But of all places, it started in Paris, France. And I think the best part of this story is that our versions vary slightly. You know? So I'll give you my version first, and you can make edits where you think appropriate. I was traveling through all the different wine regions in France with one of my best friends and a mutual friend of ours, Ian Blackburn. And we've been traveling for almost a month. And we had an amazing trip. But the truth is that we were together, you know, every single day, 24 hours a day, every night for a month. And as I joke with when my wife is not in the room, which she's not right now, let's hope she's not listening, is I'd have a hard time doing that with my wife, let alone a guy friend. And so we had gone to Bordeaux, Burgundy, Alsace, Loire, everywhere. And we are back in Paris, and we're sitting in one of Alain Ducasse's restaurants. And we hear this young guy talking with an American accent. And I think both of us were just so excited at the prospect of talking to another American that we like bum rushed the table. And I think the look on your face was somewhere between fear and like maybe you thought we were going to invite you back to the room to harvest your organs or something. And I mean, it was just like, what the hell is going on? But after realizing that we were just starved for, you know, other conversation, my wife said she's listening, so I'll have to be careful what I say. You know, we just started talking. And you know what I remember most distinctly about, you know, sitting down and talking with you is just how we both had these, I should say all three of us, had these like pie in the sky dreams. I remember you were talking about, you know, wanting to start your own restaurant, and I was talking about wanting to start my own winery. And I think we were both well on our way, but probably being a little bit modest about it. And that's how we met. I mean, just absolutely unbelievable to think that, you know, the fact that we happened to be in Paris, France, in the same restaurant at the exact same time 20 years ago when you were a chef in New Jersey and I was a, you know, kind of starting out winemaker in California. I mean, it's insane.
No, I wasn't even a chef. I was a cook. I was working for, so in Paris, I left Bill Telepan at Jux and Grill to go to Paris, and I was a line cook there. And before that, I was at Boulet Bakery. But yes, there was this want for me to be a successful chef. And you guys talking about your visits through all the wineries and how much you had love for the wine. And the most incredible part for me learning about you is that you had a family business that was not the winery business, but they were selling grapes for, can you tell them how long?
Yeah, so my family, we are 6th generation grape growers. My kids are actually the 7th generation, and my nieces and nephews. But we'd always been just grape growers. We homesteaded our first piece of property out here in Sonoma County in 1868. So a couple of years ago, we celebrated our 150th anniversary, which is pretty incredible. But we had always been just grape growers. And I like to say that I spent the better part of my childhood picking grapes and pulling leaves and tying vines against my will and learned at a very early age what I did not want to do the rest of my life. I tried very hard to get away from the wine business, but as they say, sometimes in life, you just don't know what you have till it's gone. And it took me getting away from the industry, away from California, to truly have an appreciation of just how incredible my family's history was here in Sonoma County, and also, how amazing the wine industry was. So after graduating from college with degrees in marketing and finance, I ended up kind of falling into a job working in a cellar. And it's funny because, you use the distinction between a chef and a cook, and I always say when I started in a winery, people are like, oh, were you a winemaker? Like, no, I was far from a winemaker. I was getting paid $11 an hour to drag hoses around a cellar. And I guess that's probably something like your definition between a chef and a cook. Yeah. But what it did is it piqued my interest. And I knew immediately that I was hooked. I absolutely fell in love with that side of the industry, and recognized very quickly that my family owned some of the best vineyards in Sonoma County. And why were we selling all this fruit to other wineries? And so convinced them to sell me some grapes, and we started making our first ever wines. And what's interesting is we started making our first wines in '98. And when we met in Paris in 2000, what was that like? Was it end of January, right? Or maybe February, somewhere around there?
End of February. It was actually, no, because I had my birthday in France. And my birthday is St. Patrick's Day in March. Okay. So maybe I met you before my birthday, or
I remember seeing the Eiffel Tower saying 2000, and for some reason I was thinking it was earlier, but I remember it was cold. How about that? So we were getting ready to release our first wines, and we would have released our first vintages in probably 3 months after that, which is kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah. So I just want to tell the viewers a little bit more. So I pre-cooked some tricolor quinoa. Tricolor is just white and red quinoa, but like they can use any type of quinoa they want. I just do it for the looks, especially the fact that I did this recipe on the Today Show. I was looking for, maximum flavor, but also aesthetic as well. And I have some cherry tomatoes that I blanched. And what I mean by that is I boiled them in salted water, which you can see right here. And you just bring the salted water up to a boil. You put the tomatoes in for like 30 seconds, and then you shock them in ice water. And when you shock them, you stop the cooking process. And if you can see, the peel just slides right off, just like that. And it gives just a little like mix of like still that really fresh flavor, but also a little bit of that cooked sensation in your mouth as well. All right.
So Ryan,
we're gonna marinate the.
Does this come as just like second nature to you? Like that's just part of the process? Because I look at that and I think, oh my God, that looks like a lot of work. I gotta boil something else. I gotta blanch it. But I guess it's just you develop that understanding and patience that's what it takes to make those finite differences between a good dish and a great dish.
Yeah, I mean, you have to get all those. You have to think about all the flavors. Trying to get sweet, salty, bitter. Some earthiness in there. We're serving a meat. Chicken is very simple, but I have to be honest. If I was on a deserted island, chicken is like one of my favorite things because it can be cooked so many different ways. You have the white meat, you have the dark meat. You can be grilled, it can be roasted. And it just has different textures to it. So I want to get back to our story, right? After that, we both start our own businesses. We actually lost touch, and I actually stayed more in touch with Ian because Ian did a lot of visits to New York City and stuff like that. I think the funniest thing ever is that every Wednesday I get the New York Times because it's the restaurant edition. Was it the Times? When you were on the cover pouring wine. And I was like, I called Ian. I'm like, is that Clay? And he's like, oh yeah, I didn't tell you. He started his own business, blah, blah. He's got, and then it just kind of rolled into me and Ian having a conversation about that. I was doing my first James Beard dinner. and I needed somebody to pour the wine because we didn't have a liquor license at Fashino.
That's right. I forgot about that.
And we reached out to you, and that was it. And it was your first beer dinner too, right?
Yeah, my first one.
So
Yeah,
I mean
that was it was such an incredible honor. I mean, to have a chance to reconnect with you, but to be invited, to the Beard House, to pair, our wines with your food was just awesome. And again, I just think back to those two young whippersnappers sitting at some cafe in Paris talking about, their dreams of someday being a chef and being a winemaker. And then yet, 4 years later, right? It was 2004 was when the beer dinner was.
Yes, because I opened the restaurant June 30th, which is my dad's birthday of 2003, and we did the beer dinner the next year. And I think I've done three more, total of four. But 2004 was the year that I was pre-nominated. I was on the pre-nomination list for the James Beard, which was pretty cool. Was on with like David Chang and God, now my mind's going blank. Great, just a whole bunch of chefs that are just absolutely huge now. So it was an honor to be on that list, to do those dinners. And if anybody goes back to my pictures, you'll see a picture of me and Clay that I posted yesterday. That was at the beer dinner. If you look at that picture and you look now, you'll actually see how old Clay really is now.
We like to say that was the BC period of my life, and before Carrie. Now technically we were married, but she was still stuck in South Africa at that time, so it doesn't really count.
Well, so then it just that kind of rolled into many wine dinners between Fashino, and then we did the Patello one, which was, I thought, just unbelievable because it was on the patio overlooking New York City. It was incredible.
Well, you come out here and cooked in Rockpile.
I was going to say, a lot of people I tell people about the Rockpile dinners and how we cook on a mountain, and they just sometimes they can't even like grasp the idea. Can you explain to them what you guys do with not just me, but like so many chefs that you've created relationships with?
Yeah, well, real quick, if you go to either the @Mauritson Wines site or my personal Instagram @Clay Mauritson, you'll see some of the pictures of Rockpile. And, it's pretty stunning. And it's something that has a lot of meaning to our family. But to Ryan's point, we started this program about 12 years ago where wineries do traditional winemaker dinners where they'll go to New York or Atlanta, Chicago, Texas, wherever, and they'll pair up with a great chef and do a winemaker dinner. And we had this idea that we wanted to bring some of these great chefs out to California to cook with us. So bring a little bit of their regional flair, but then let's put have the setting of serving the wine in the vineyard in which it was made. And so we started doing our Rockpile dinners, and we have been blessed to have not only Ryan out here multiple times, but chefs from about, I think, 10 different states. And whether it's, Charlie Palmer or, Chris Shepard or all of our friends down in Atlanta, Chris Hall. I mean, we have had some just amazing chefs out here to cook. And it's one of the things that I think really differentiates us is being able to cook on a piece of land that my family's owned for 150 years and be able to drink wine, in that vineyard in which it was made with incredible food. And the food is always so different because we're bringing in chefs from all over the country. So that's a little bit of a teaser about how special these winemaker dinners are up on the mountain.
Yeah. I'm due for one next year.
Wishful thinking. Let's hope that we're going to have some next year. And if there was ever a place that was socially distant, I think Rockpile would qualify.
I agree to that. And we also did I didn't. I actually was a guest, which was very nice when you did the Project Zinn dinner with the guys from New Orleans.
Yes. I think that's been probably one of the most gratifying things about, my relationship with you and having all these incredible chef friends around the country is that when you can put great minds and successful businesses together for a great cause. And Project Zen is a fundraiser that my wife and I started to raise money for our local nonprofit, the Down Syndrome Association of the North Bay. Our oldest son has Down syndrome, and we really wanted to affect change in our community to create more opportunities and better lives for individuals and families with Down syndrome. And not only have you come out to be a part of that event, but you came with me last year to Utah to do a really special winemaker dinner in some dear friends of ours, John and Kelsey Meller's home. And that was a fundraiser for the National Ability Center that supports all individuals who are differently able. And I mean, those are the kind of things that, I hope that when we're long gone, that people remember about our friendship. And, I heard it said from another great chef that, the best thing about, climbing that ladder and of notoriety is that your audience gets larger. And we have the opportunity to affect more people in a positive way. And, not all of us, have the bank accounts that we can write checks to nonprofits, but we can do different things to make people's lives better. And with the type of food that you cook, I mean, it's amazing that, people, come out to have a food and wine experience with us, and then you can change people's lives like that. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. We, same thing on our end. I co-chair for two big events, JBWS, which is the Jersey Battered Women Services. Our event was last week, and we had to cancel it, obviously. And we have Ava's Village, which is a substance abuse recovery center. And last year was our first. I was a co-chair, and our first event ever. We raised $250,000 in one night.
Wow!
And it's supposed to be in first week in September. We don't know yet, but I mean, we had 500 people. So, with everything that's happening with the social distancing, there's a good chance we're going to have to push it, So I don't think, people realize, how much it's affecting, all the charities out there.
Yeah.
But I think that if we just keep sticking to what we're doing, slowly everything's going to come back to normal. I think it's just going to take time.
It will, and this too shall pass, right? I use this analogy and talking to my kids. I think it's a great analogy that, when you look at something like Mount Everest, you don't think about scaling that in one day. It looks daunting. It looks impossible. But you just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And next thing you know, you're at base camp 1, and then the goal becomes to get to base camp 2, and the goal becomes to get to camp 3. And next thing you know, you're at the summit. And I think that's how we have to approach the coronavirus and COVID-19 is, quitting's not an option. Failure's not an option. We just keep putting one foot in front of the other and, march forward and understand that there are a lot of people that are, really suffering from this. And whether it's because they're sick or have loved ones that are sick or their business are being devastated. But we're all in it together. I mean, there's no socio-demographic that this isn't affecting. So I think that there's a little bit of misery in company. And, there's a comfort in knowing that we're all going to move through it together.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. By the way, I was going through my cabinet the other day, and I found the list of all the Star Wars characters that Brady made for me. I kept it. He put them in from beginning to end. I'm pretty sure they're in alphabetical order. And I kept it because he's like, to you, Mr. Ryan. And it was really cute. And I have it in my dresser, and it's just funny. And I just, when you mentioned that we were in Utah with the kids and everything like that, I had to tell you that. So
that's awesome. We're going to have to get you to come back to Utah next year because it looks like as long as they have an event next year, Brady is going to be the honored athlete next year for the National Ability Center. So we're going to have to get you to make a guest appearance back in Utah. It's going to be pretty special.
Listen, God willing, we'll be there, right? uh, just don't let me ski next to him because he blows me away in skiing. All right, it's just not fair.
No.
I have so much to go. So listen, the chicken is partially pretty much cooked. I'm gonna just show you real quick. So we cooked it, and now I made the recipe calls for sage, right? But honestly, I couldn't find sage. There's things in the store now that are, they're just running out of. They're not available. But that's okay. You have to adapt, right? We're adapting to our businesses. This is just fresh thyme. Fresh thyme picked, raw garlic, olive oil, salt and pepper. And then I'm just gonna rub this on the top of the chicken just like that. And I'm gonna put it back in the oven for like 2 minutes just to get the garlic toasted and the herbs nice and toasted. All right. So I have my quinoa, marinating, and I have my cherry tomatoes marinating, which are right here. They're good to go. We're gonna set those aside. And my thought was I would add some spinach to the dish. I had this conversation before about vegetables and green vegetables not pairing, but then I started reading about Zinfandel, which is, I know, what we're drinking right now. How do you feel about that? Pairing a spinach with a Zinfandel?
I think you hit the nail on the head. It can be challenging to pair red wines with green vegetables. And I think the obvious example of that is asparagus. It's pretty much impossible to truly pair a red wine with asparagus. And most people say asparagus will just destroy a red wine. I think if you have a balanced wine that still has acid, that isn't homogenized in its flavor profile, so meaning it's not too ripe where all you have is pure fruit, and especially when we're talking about rock pile, we get such uniformity of ripening up there, and we have the ability to pick at lower bricks, so our alcohols aren't going to be as high. Conversely, our acids are going to be higher, but when you don't get that homogenized jammy flavor, even with Zinfandel, you get this amazing earthy notes, you get some herbal notes. And when we were talking about this pairing, weeks ago, I thought the Rockpile Ridge would be perfect with it. And truthfully, anything from Rockpile would be great because you actually have a lot of herbal notes to it. And sometimes people hear herb and they think vegetable, or they hear vegetable, they think herb, and they think that's a negative in red wines. But to me, that shows the complexity of a great red wine that isn't just a one-trick pony, that has different tertiary flavors in it. And, I think the maybe common perception with, a white flaked meat, so some people lump chicken together with fish, is to do with a white wine. But I love it with Zinfandel. I like something heartier, and especially, with that buttermilk is going to give it a lot of richness. And then you have the earthy components of the quinoa. And of course, I'm just spitballing and making it up here because I'm going to have to try it later tonight. But, it sounds good, right? Do I sound like I know what I'm talking about?
Listen, you have my word. When next time we are out there, I will make this dish for you. As long as you open up a bottle of Zin, I'll cook.
All right, we can do that. I can open a bottle of wine. I've done that once or twice.
Oh, man. So what's next for you guys, with like everything that's happening? Like, how do you guys adapt?
Well, on a positive, and maybe you could construe it, maybe a somewhat negative note, winemaking doesn't stop. Grape growing doesn't stop. Since COVID-19 or shelter in place has started, we have had multiple bottling episodes. The wines need to go into bottle, and they need to go into bottle. So our cellar team is working full tilt. We're still working in the vineyards. My brothers that run the vineyard side of the operation, they're going full bore. There's certain aspects of our business that can't stop, and we're really thankful that our governor deemed wineries to be essential businesses, because I think he understands the agricultural nature of it, that it has to be maintained and made. Obviously, our tasting room is closed, and as you know well, we sell the majority of our wines and distribution through restaurants. And with pretty much every restaurant in the country, being closed, Some aspects of our business have been hurt really bad, but we are incredibly fortunate to have an unbelievable group of wine club members, of mailing list members, of diehard customers that have continued to support the wines. And, like I said, we're going to get through this. We're going to be, just fine on the other side. And I think we're all going to take our lumps and maybe at a lower fighting weight when we come out of this. But we're just thankful for, what we have right now. So blessed to live in Sonoma County where we have, space to get out and, kind of exercise some of those demons, get some exercise, move around. I was laughing when you were saying you can't find sage, and I was thinking to myself, well, just walk out to our garden. We are so blessed to be able to grow so many unbelievable things.
That's not fair. That's not fair.
So,
it's funny when I came and did my last rock pile dinner. What was that? Not last year, the year before. You remember I brought my friends Robbie and AJ, who are chefs in New Jersey. We were driving out of town back to your house, and we were coming from Charlie Palmer's Dry Creek Kitchen because we were prepping over there, and Robbie literally is like, "Stop the car!" Like he saw like a little kid get hit or something by a car or something, but he jumps out of the car. And he runs across the street. I'm like, what is wrong with him? What is happening? And like on the side of the road, he's picking fennel fronds. And I'm like, this is not fair. You guys get to cheat on how amazing your produce is. It's awesome. It's like, I just wish that we can like do that here. We would have to try so less with our cooking.
Well, maybe it makes you a better chef in the long run.
I don't know.
We are so fortunate, and my family raises livestock, and I love to hunt and fish, and so again I prefer to look at some of the glass half full approaches of this shelter in place. And I mean, literally since Carrie and I have been married, I've never been home for this long of a period of time, not counting harvest. I mean, harvest, I'm obviously home, but we're also working 20 hours a day, so we don't see each other anyways. But to be able to, eat out of our garden and eat out of our fridge and be able to put my kids to bed every night. Even I've been experimenting with new recipes. I mean, you know how much I love to cook. I mean, there are a lot of blessings in this, some silver linings. And so we've been preferring to focus on that. And because, this too shall pass. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be in 2 weeks, 2 months. So certainly I hope it's not 2 years. But, we'll get through this. And
listen, everybody,
it's easy to get stuck in our little perspective of what's happening now, and especially in California between wildfires and floods and earthquakes. But if you really take a step back, I've listened to my mom talk about polio. I listened to my grandparents talk about Spanish flu. So there's been things like this that have affected the world, and we just have our this little short period of perspective to think about it. But we'll get through it. I want to see what this dish is shaping up to be. It looks like you're getting about finished, and we haven't even talked about wine yet.
All right, here we go. So I'll just show you before the chicken goes on. A little more, babe. So we have the quinoa underneath, the spinach. We have the marinated cherry tomatoes. I cut some cucumbers in there, but then I also my camera person is just, I don't know what's happening.
You can't get good help these days. I mean, come on. Definitely.
So,
how much are you paying her?
And here we have the chicken. I don't know if, can you see the chicken? There, right there. Right? And then my knife. She stole my knife too, so I got to reach over for that. So, if you can see, it's just perfectly cooked, nice and moist. We're going to throw that bad boy right on top, just like that. And that's it. You're done. It's going to be hearty, but it's not going to be too heavy. It's buttermilk baked chicken is something that David Boulay taught me when I worked at Boulay. And it's really encompassed all the chicken dishes in all the restaurants because people just have appreciated it so much. So, but like, can you tell them like what you think about this wine and how it would go with this dish?
So, you know, when you're pairing wines, I think there's a couple different things that we think about. We think about texture of the dish and texture of the wine, and you know how the tannins and acid in the wine set up that texture. And then we think about flavor profile. And you know, chicken is somewhat of a neutral protein. I mean, let's be honest. And so I think you can do a lot of different really good wine pairings with chicken. And one of my all-time things that your and I's mutual friend Timmy over at Arista does is they do a Chardonnay and fried chicken, you know, dinner every year. That's just unbelievable. So a lot of people think white with chicken, but what I loved what you did with this dish is, again, that quinoa is going to bring some earthier notes, you know, to the dish. The brushing it with the herbs is certainly going to, you know, bring out more herbal notes. And then when you incorporate something as simple as those tomatoes that are going to have the acid and the freshness, and that's why we talked about Zinfandel, other than the fact that you drank all of the other wine that I sent you, you know, so we were stuck with Zin. But, you know, I think Zin is the perfect pairing with this. And especially that Rockpile Zin that is not just fruit. It's got so much earth to it. I think the body with that buttermilk, you're going to have a little bit more richness with that buttermilk baked chicken. And so the acid and the tannin are just really going to pair nicely with the richness of the buttermilk. Yeah. You've got it in front of you. Tell me, does it work? Did we hit it out of the park?
I mean, I have to try it.
Well, but I'm trying. It's in front of me, and I'm halfway through a bottle of wine. So,
since it's in front of me, we'll do like, you know, one of those like Today Show finishers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the way you explained it, you know. It's the earthiness and the herbaceousness from the herbs and the acidity. If you're getting all those taste points that also come out of a wine, you know, I think it's paired up really well. I think I'm going to continue to drink this and eat this meal tonight.
We've got a couple hours to go. I think if I stop for dinner right now, I might have mutiny amongst my staff.
By the way, I just wanted to mention, you mentioned Timmy's fried chicken. He did that at his wine dinner when he came to Batello as well. Yeah. That was like, he was like, I'm doing this. This is it. We're doing this.
It's pretty damn good. It's pretty damn good.
It is good. It is good. The wine was like, you know, it was okay. Oh, is Mark watching? I'm not sure, but you know, if you are,
I don't think Mark's watching, but that's all right.
Yeah, God.
Well, hey man, this has been an absolute blast. I can't thank you enough for having me on to talk food and wine. We definitely need to do this again sooner rather than later, especially since we can't get together. But love to your family. I know yesterday was your mom's birthday, right? Is it today or yesterday?
Yeah, today's my mother's birthday.
Today's mom's birthday.
Yes.
Happy birthday, Mom.
Somebody wants to say hello.
Is this our camera woman?
Oh, no.
No. Oh, my goodness. Hi. Hi.
Say hi, Clay.
Hi, Clay.
How are you?
Good.
Oh, my mom's answering you. She's answering you right now.
Oh, I didn't see.
Anyway, listen, it's been great. I hope that we can share another very late night at Cook Shop.
Yes.
And until then, let's Let's keep the conversation going, the wine pouring.
Take it down there.
Yeah. And obviously, the food, you know, plates full, right?
Yep. Well, love to
So-
you, man. Love to your family, and we will be in touch soon, man.